programs for
empower your children with a religious education that helps them make their own decisions about what they believe.
connect and learn from our community of diverse experiences, faith, and cultures.
Sing with others in one of our many choirs.
Explore your creativity and find healing in the chapter of your life that you're in right now.
At All Souls, our members care for each other through the highs and the lows of our lives.
Live out love beyond belief here in Tulsa, across our nation, and around the world.
Join us. Become a member of the All Souls family in our centennial year.
At All Souls, our members care for each other through the joys and the sorrows of life.
All Souls Tulsa and All Souls everywhere.
Join today at allsoulschurch.org.
And I'm so excited to be with you in worship today. This is a very special Sunday in Pride Month, as it is Juneteenth and Father's Day. Let's give it up for our fathers. For the month of June, we're exploring the theme of inclusion as we continue our Summer of Peace series. Today's message is from our own Bishop Carlton Pearson, entitled, You're Included. We have a great story for all ages, Juneteenth, from Shannon Boston, our Director of Religious Education. And we're going to have some incredible music performed by David Smith, along with Matt Edwards and Cynthia Simpson-Taylor. Yes. Now, if this is your first time joining us at All Souls, please fill out a Connect card found in the pew in front of you, in the back of the pew in front of you, and drop it off in the offering plate when it comes around. And speaking of offering, you don't have to wait until the offering plate comes around. You can give at any time during or after this service by texting Love BB to 73256. Again, Love BB to 73256. For those of you online, please let us know a little bit more about you in the chat, and one of our welcoming souls will reach out to you and let you know a little bit more about us and how you can get connected. Please share this link to this service. Let people know how wonderful the community of All Souls is. Like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Roku. Also, if you're joining us online, please drop your prayer requests and concerns into the chat, so in a few moments we can drop a stone and hold space for you here in the sanctuary. Now, I invite you all to take a moment, either here or in person, in the chat, online, to stand and greet one another in peace and generosity. And please remain standing as our minister Corey Lovell comes and lead us in our invocation and covenant. Just a little bit there.
It's nice to look out there and see y'all. This is indeed a day that God has made. Let us then rejoice and be glad in it. Let us count our many blessings. Let us be grateful for the capacity to see, hear, feel, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life. Let us be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us all together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Now, if you'll join me in our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
From all that dwell below the sky, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land, by every tongue.
Love beyond belief. Yeah. That was a great doxology. Our chalice is lit today by member Winston Lewis and his family. Winston has led our LGBTQ team, has served on ministry committees, has devoted his life to assisting those in recovery from substance abuse, and has been a father to his nephews and now his hilarious, lovely little grandson.
The flame of our chalice is a long-held tradition. It is a symbol of diversity, equity, inclusion, and for the emancipation of the oppressed. This day, we join with thousands all over the world who are connected by the ritual of this chalice flame.
Share my own way. Thanks.
This day is also reserved for the honoring of the many diverse fathers. So whether you're a full-time dad, part-time dad, guardian dad, a god dad, foster dad, in-law dad, a granddad, or gay dad, this chalice is for you.
Happy Father's Day.
And happy Juneteenth.
Good morning. On June 19th, in 1865, soldiers arrived in Galveston, Texas, announcing the end to the Civil War and the end of slavery in the United States. It was more than 2 years after President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. Celebrated every year on June 19th, Juneteenth commemorates the announcement of the abolition of slavery and the emancipation of African American citizens throughout the entire United States. It was only last year that this became a federal holiday. Our story today is Juneteenth for Maisie by Floyd Cooper. Maisie wanted to play outside. but it was too late. She wanted a cookie, but it was time for bed. She wanted to stay up late, but she was too little. "Why so grumpy, Sugar Bear?" asked Dad. "I can't go where I want, I can't have what I want, or do what I want," answered Maisie. "Well, tomorrow you can have a celebration," said Dad. "What are we celebrating?" "We will be celebrating the day that your great-great-great-grandpa Mose crossed into liberty. The day we will be celebrating will be celebrated by us and many more families on a day that we call Juneteenth. I bet you're tired of hearing no all the time. Well, great-great-great-grandpa Mose heard no even more. Grandpa Mose worked in fields that stretched all the way to sunset. He and the other slaves would be bone tired, but they had to keep going. Their masters wouldn't let them quit. But as they worked, they thought about freedom. And when they finally went to sleep at night, they prayed about freedom and made plans to make change for the better. Some slaves ran north for freedom, following a bright star in the sky. They sweat, they bled, and they cried until those cries were quieted by a single proclamation from a brave president. And Grandpa Mose heard that proclamation from a balcony on a hotel on a warm June day in Galveston, Texas. Grandpa Mose heard nothing but the cheers, and saw nothing but happiness, and felt nothing but pride shared by all of those around him on that day. And the cheers became dancing, and the dancing became celebration, and it went on and on into the night. And Grandpa Mose and the others had found their freedom, and they continued to work. But this time, they were paid for their hard work. So they worked, and they saved, and they never forgot the moment that they heard, the moment that changed their lives forever. But things weren't perfect. Black people still struggled to stand shoulder to shoulder with white people. They still weren't treated as equals. It wasn't easy, but they did not give up. And every year on Juneteenth, they remembered. They marched for jobs, they lobbied for schools and the right to vote, and they shouted for opportunity. And every year on Juneteenth, they celebrated and they remembered. They learned and they grew. They forgave. They excelled and they achieved, and they became heroes. And now, sweet Maisie, it's your turn to celebrate. Just like great-great-great-grandpa Mose. It's your turn, Maisie, to eat some barbecue and drink some strawberry pop. It's your turn to celebrate and to remember. So children, let us go and celebrate. Celebrate Juneteenth and the stories our families have told us, and make some stories of our own.
Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Sing it with us. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
instead of holding space inside a flame of heart light this morning, we'll be tending to one another's joys, prayers, and concerns with a water stone ceremony, which represents the cleansing and sacred water which flows inside us all. The river of life that flows in endless song. You and I are in that flow. We are the very space and presence of peace, of love, of grace. And as we pass that healing peace to those near us and those afar, I drop a stone for the peace we share. In the spirit of prayer and inclusion, we drop a stone for all those who continue to be affected by senseless gun violence across our nation, which seems to come daily. Drop a stone for Dorothy Shakota's sister Mary, who's experiencing some health issues. I invite you now to speak aloud the name of someone you wish to hold in the flow of life, to be included in this sacred space. Speak their names now. I drop a stone in this sacred moment for all the precious names spoken and those unspoken yet remain in our hearts. I invite you now to stand in memory or mourning in honor of a loved one you've lost in the past year, or for whom this is the closest Sunday to the anniversary of a loved one's death, and remain standing until the spoken prayer begins after the silence.
Eternal Spirit, common source of all creative good, we give thanks and praise for those that father this day, those that balance strength with tenderness, grace and humor with steadfast presence and patience. The dads, the stepdads, the granddads, the great-granddads, the uncles that father, the single moms that father, single fathers that mother, the parents who show up with all their capacity to nurture and tend to our next generation upon which we pin our hopes. We know, Spirit, that the legacy of conviction, resilience, persistence, and faith in liberation from all forms of oppression we receive from our ancestors. And we give thanks and praise for them today. We honor the life they perpetuated for centuries against all odds. And here at this beautiful intersection of Juneteenth, Pride, and Father's Day, we know that the long arc towards justice that crosses generations comes from the power of unconditional love that you gift, Spirit, to each and every one of us. Amen and blessed be.
When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. Sing it with me now. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, when I breathe, oh, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love. When I breathe in, when I breathe, oh, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I breathe out love.
Trying times is what the world is talking about. You got confusion all over the land. Mother against daughter, father against son. The whole thing is getting out of hand. Folks wouldn't have to suffer if there was more love for your brother. These are trying times. Got the riots in the ghetto, and it's all around. A whole lot of things are going down. I don't understand it, but my point of view, I remember somebody said, do unto others as you'd have man's inhumanity to man. But what do you try to do to make this a better land? Just pick up your paper, turn on your TV. You see a lot of demonstrations for equality. Maybe folks wouldn't have to suffer if there was more love. But these are trying times. These are trying times. Mother against daughter. Father against son. You got confusion all over the land. Need a little more love.
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 These are trying times. These are trying times. I said these are trying times.
Cynthia? Love me some Roberta Flack. Yeah, there you go. You did it good. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming today. This warm Juneteenth, June 19th. I remember the first time I heard Juneteenth, it was my grandfather who was born in East Texas. And he was 84 years old when he transitioned here. But I was 14 years old, and I was working with him at the service station in San Diego, California, where I was born. And out of the clear blue, he said, "Y'all gonna celebrate Juneteenth?" Now, my grandfather couldn't read or write. And I said, "Juneteenth, what does that mean?" He said, "I don't know, we're just supposed to celebrate." I said, "What does it mean? What does it stand for?" Everybody, my mama just told us to have barbecue and chicken, and he didn't even know what it, and I'm not sure she did. She was one generation removed from slavery. Mama Cassa, I knew her, my great-grandmother. Even after 1865, and that was probably 1965, when my grandfather said that to me, people still didn't know what Juneteenth was. And a lot of us still don't know what freedom is. America's in the midst of a cold civil war. And it's intensifying, as you can see. The polarization, the anger, the angst, the frustration. I've never felt so intolerant in my life of racism and social injustice. I've sort of stayed away from it as a pacifistic Christian all these years. Now that I'm approaching my 70th birthday, and for the last 20 years I've been in rebellion. That's what the whole gospel of inclusion. I was just rebelling a bunch against things that I never felt in my soul were accurate. I'm still in that rebellion, and I see more clearly now why. Inclusion, I'm calling this inclusion the highest form of integrity. I will say something more about Juneteenth in a little bit. And of course, it was my grandfather, and I'm thinking about today along with my father, and I'll say something about those kinds of things. But the word inclusion is defined as the action or state of including or of being included within a group or structure. Simple. It's the practice or policy of providing equal access to opportunities and to resources for people who would otherwise be excluded or marginalized. One of the things that made me uncomfortable about fundamentalist evangelical Christianity, it was a very exclusive type mentality. We felt we were the chosen, the cleanest, clearest, most accurate, God-loved people on the planet. There was an arrogance that I had and held and didn't know that I did. I'm very apologetic for it. And I often say when I come here that I had an attitude toward Unitarianism. Didn't even know what it was. You're one of the few predominantly white churches in the country and denominations that would even celebrate Juneteenth or recognize it. And you did it long before it was a national holiday. Unitarian Universalists, whom we didn't even think were saved or safe to be around. You're very harmless. I'm a Unicostal. But I had this judgment, prejudgment. That's what the word prejudice means, to prejudge. I hadn't even met a Unitarian. Didn't know one personally that I knew of. And had all these judgments handed down or traded down, that's what we call tradition, over the years. And there's a lot of people who are still afraid of who we are because there's so much freedom here, and it takes courage to be free. Freedom is not for cowards. You're so free, it's scary. Anybody's welcomed here. And not only welcome, you're wanted here, even if you're different. And of course you are. That's what makes us Unitarian Universalists. Marco Bizzarri, the Italian businessman and president and CEO of Gucci, said this: diversity and inclusion, which are the real grounds for creativity, must remain at the center of what we do. He said that as a corporate businessman. And of course, a lot of people talk about inclusion. My thing with inclusion, I wrote a book called The Gospel of Inclusion. The good news of inclusion is that everybody, now let me do some Christian theology right quick. The scripture says that as in Adam, all men die, so in Christ, all will be made alive. As in Adam, all men die, all humans die. Male, female, black, white, red, yellow, brown, Hindu, atheist, agnostic, Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, whoever. All people die according to the scripture because of the first Adam. And the last Adam, who is Jesus Christ, that scripture suggests, he fixed everything that Adam screwed up, excuse the terminology. So in a sense, and I could go through that whole doctrinal message scripturally if I needed to. I don't think I have to impress you with that because y'all been inclusionists a long time. And when we moved in here as mostly African-American Pentecostals, you really had to become more inclusionist. And you're the ones that lasted. Because we feel exclusively, even us, and as broader-minded progressives, we kind of get a little elitist from time to time, and we look down on the people who are not as smart as we are, who are not as free as we are. And I find myself wrestling with these different prejudicial mentalities. But to effectively alleviate prejudices and promote unity of the church or in the workplace or any humane or sober society, overall, diversity must be celebrated and emphasized. And sometimes that means disagreeing without being disagreeable. I was coming on this morning, I was telling Corey, and I drove down 91st. I live between 81st and 91st off Yale, and I saw these people playing tennis. First of all, it's too hot to play it, but I love tennis. That's my favorite sport. But the old thought came to my mind, they ought to be going to church. They ought to be in church. So why aren't they in church this morning? I've wrestled with that. In fact, even as a pastor, I used to drive to my church, even though we had traffic jams every Sunday. It was packed with thousands of people. I would see people going the opposite direction from my church and judge them. Why aren't they going to my church? I'm presuming they're going to church anywhere, but they probably were out all last night. You know, I just had all these judgments. Most of them you don't know and have never felt. But I'm still peeling off layers of judgmentalism and arrogance. And everybody has certain elements of racism. And it's not just to be non-racist, but we need you to be anti-racist in order to help change the culture that we live in. The Greek word for agreement is where we get our English word. The Greek word for agreement is symphoneo, where we get our English word symphony, which you've heard me say before. Doesn't mean to sound the same. It doesn't even mean to sound alike. It just means to sound together. The symphonic versatility of the planet and of the people and of the sounds of humanity. We all know that the ebony and ivory on our keyboards wouldn't be as melodic or make such beautiful music if they sounded the same. And each key has its own note and its own sound. And we don't just crash on it. We use artistic, scientific graces to play the instruments as these gentlemen do so eloquently and excellently. And we like the sound of diversity. I would be bored. I often say if a couple both of y'all have the same opinion about everything all the time, one of y'all ain't necessary. We need the other side of the coin. And we need the two wings of the bird in order to fly. And we need each other. And I would be very bored if we all looked alike. And I heard many years white people say, black folks, they all look alike. They all look alike. Then I went to China. I used to be offended by that till I went to China. All of them looked alike over there. Everybody looked the same. And I said, is this what white people think of us? And now, in another sense, white people look alike. You know, y'all need some color. So, to effectively alleviate prejudices and promote unity in our country, our culture, and consciousness, diversity must be celebrated and emphasized. Fostering equality and cultural diversity is the top challenge for the entire American society, especially at this moment. Even in this state, and I really get bothered by this whole pro-Trump, pro-guns, pro-God. Surely you jest. It's so irritating to me as an African American on Juneteenth. For most of my evangelical friends, whom I love dearly, whom I served and pastored for 30 years, baptized them, counseled them, prayed with them, prayed for them. I created an integrated congregation, an integrated staff. We were so into integration of the races as well as the denominations, but I wasn't thinking outside the denomination of Christianity. But most of them voted, and you can vote for whoever you want. It's just this particular president I can't stand. So that's not Marlon. That's nobody's opinion but mine. Okay, I'm not talking about universalism. I'm not talking about all souls. I'm talking about all self. Okay, and I'm the speaker this morning, so you got to hear it whether you like it or not. But Juneteenth is celebrated. It's about freedom from being denied and hidden from slaves. The freedom was hidden from slaves. Now, when you have a slave mentality, and which some of us still do, or your grandparents or your great-grands, and I got to meet them all, and my great-grandfather was half white. His mother was repeatedly raped by the man that owned the property that they were indentured servants, or just like slaves, just under slavery. And Papa, my great-grandfather, whom I knew till he died, and I was in my teens when Papa died, Papa would tell me the stories. He never taught hatred. He died without running water or electricity in his home in East Texas. My grandfather, who first told me about Juneteenth, had to leave his East Texas home at the bottom of a horse-driven carriage because he had insulted a white man at a grocery store who wanted to hype the price on some flour or some meal. And my grandfather said, "Oh, I can do better than that." And the man said, "Oh, the hell you will do better than that. I've climbed up these ladders to get this stuff. You're going to buy this food." And my grandfather said, the hell I am going to buy it. They use other words. And He could have said to heaven, but he said hell. And he left. And in minutes, the Ku Klux Klan got together in a truck. So his mother put him under the bottom, and they drove him out into a larger little city where he could catch a train and go to Arizona. Another racist state. But he went there and lived for several years. His brother became the first African-American deputy sheriff of Pima County. And then they moved to California, where my mother and my grandmother lived in a beautiful home on the Pacific Ocean. My grandmother was a live-in maid, and my mother used to wake up to the sound of seagulls. She loves the ocean as we do now, and all of us. My dad was born out there. So when you think of all these things, then we had our first black president, and when Donald Trump said he's not even American for so long, that may not mean a lot to you. But black people across this country were so thrilled, and we were weeping because we remember the whole idea, but for him to say that was so insulting to the culture, the black culture. And it wouldn't necessarily have been to non-blacks, but for us who were so thrilled. I remember seeing the picture of Jesse Jackson with the tears in his eyes, and Jackson's a longtime friend of mine in Chicago, and just the whole idea of demoralizing women and demoralizing people, and twice impeached. And in this state, I've got to listen to these commercials every day of these candidates always have to say they're pro-Trump and that they pray. Those are catchphrases, that this is an evangelical Christian state dominated, and that the Democrats don't work, and impeaching Biden. And I understand politics, and that's not what I'm here, except the spirit of that is very insensitive, and it causes a division throughout our country. There are a lot of Republicans. I was a Republican from the time Ronald Reagan became president till Obama ran. So I understand Republicans. I understand the philosophy. I understand certain parts of conservatism. I was a conservative all my life, big pro-life preacher in this state. That's why Frank Keating liked me as our governor and had me to go to the Oklahoma bombing to speak along with Billy Graham when all those precious people were annihilated. But common sense tells you if we're going to last, you can't hold on to the past. MAGA, Make America Great Again, in some people's mind means make America hate again legally. So you can lynch and put your knee on a man's neck and kill him and watch him struggle to the place that he had to call his mother. A grown man cried out for his mother. And in 15 minutes, he was gone. I think she probably came and took him, if that's possible. Did that not touch you? Did you not feel that? It doesn't matter what the race would have been. That pain is intolerable, and that kind of behavior is inexcusable. And today we shouldn't be fighting these battles. White men have run the culture, and that's just the way it's been. Nobody really protested that. Now white women are taking over. We got to put them back in their place. Next time, you know, we're going to have a woman president. Go ahead and clap, ladies. There are more females in seminary. There are more females in medical school. There's a nurturing about the females. And educated white women are very against, they were saying on the news this morning, and have been against Donald Trump for obvious reasons. The less educated Americans are more pro. But most people don't consider themselves racist. We are control freaks. All of us are. We like to control the culture. Is it in God we trust, or is it in guns we trust? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under guns, with disunity and justice for some. Some people literally want to change that. That's the spirit behind that. Look, I said that very proudly as a little black kid growing up. And I heard all my life I was, we were underprivileged, and we were low income, and we were poor. And I was used to that. I said as a little kid, I'm not going to be poor all my life. We were poor. The rich people in my neighborhood was poor. We were so poor, the poor folks called us poor. I was so used to that mentality. Now when we come out, I live in a home that we would have only gone in, the kind of home that we would have only gone in to clean as a kid. But I said to myself in the ghetto, I will not always live. I will get out of the ghetto and get into the ghetto, as Reverend Knight used to say. I'm 70 years old and I'm still thinking about all of this as I watch some of the creepy things happen. And I see religion and politics, Christian nationalism is dangerous. It is one of the most pronounced threats to national security. And I understand religion. King James said, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. As I said once before, creature doesn't mean human. In 16th century King's English, a creature was a creature, or a critter, or an animal, or a monster in the English language. So that's Africa, Asia, India. So the whole idea of elitism that we think that people get King James and King Jesus mixed up, that command came out of London, not Jerusalem, from a man of color named Jesus. Some call him Christ, which means anointed one. So there's still this whole emancipation proclamation that is an awkward thing for us today. And there's certain people in our young generation is not as stuck there. You find out these kids are open, they're free, they don't understand prejudice, they're not into that, they don't judge same-sex marriages, they don't judge integrated couples and cultures. They hang out with atheists and agnostics and Hindus and Muslims and Jews, and these kids grow up. My children have no idea of what I felt as a little low-income kid coming in. I remember having all the metal taken out of my mouth when I got here because we went to these places for underprivileged people. They put this lead in our mouths, silver in our mouths, and it was ruining us. When I was a freshman in college, a junior, I should say, a sophomore, they took it out. But we were so glad to get that kind of dental care because we couldn't afford it. There were 6 of us, and all of us got the cavities removed out of our mouths. My dad wouldn't have been able to afford it. So as you can see, as we come to this particular stage in our country and in our culture, the opponents of critical race theory seek to withhold critical information regarding our history as a nation. They want to hide the horrendous and ungodly treatment of mostly non-white Americans from the Native Americans, African Americans, Mexican Americans, or American Mexicans over the centuries. Well, that's part of history. You can't hide the Holocaust. There's an element, and you need to know, we can't fight this with bullets. We have to fight this with ballots. But you don't even see very many people running who are progressives. And the little catchphrases, pro-Trump, pro-Jesus, pro-guns, pro-life. How can you be pro-guns and pro-life equally? Most pro-life people are hard capital punishment advocates. Save the unborn, kill the born, kill the living. Oklahoma has the highest death rate, one of the highest death penalty numbers in the whole country. We have more females in prison here. This is the bucket of the Bible Belt. We got marijuana, and it's going to be recreational next. All these fundamentalists. And I'm not against any of it, but I'm just this whole idea, there's a double standard here that I feel very awkward about. To be radically inclusive, and I know I don't sound that radically, the only one I'm struggling including is people who exclude. I wrestle with that because it's painful, it's bitter, it's bondage, and we need to, and I thank God for Marlon Lavenhar. I thank God for Dr. Wolf. I thank God for All Souls. I thank God for the Unitarian Universalist movement because they've been on the front line, and it's a predominantly non-black denomination, and they speak out for social justice with boldness and tenacity and resilience, and they don't apologize. And you're a part of that, and I don't want you to take it lightly or take it for granted. You're in a very, I'm not assuming that everybody here embraces what I'm saying or what all Unitarian Universalists does corporately, but I think in general, we pull toward the same thing. We like diversity, but we're not always comfortable with diversity. Not even I am. I'm learning. Many black people for many years have gone in Pentecostal churches, have gone to predominantly white Pentecostal churches where they usually clap on the first and third. So they started clapping on the first and third just to go along. And when white people came to predominantly black Pentecostal churches, they tried to do first and third, but it wasn't going to work. I mean, second and fourth. They were just, and that's all right. You're born that way. Ain't nothing wrong with you. We have these little prejudices that we carry. There's nothing bitter about that. But when you say that they're less than you because they can't clap on the first and third or the second or fourth, or that they don't like the beat or they don't like the sound, when you demean somebody or see yourself superior to them, that's the kind of racism that is very harmful and destructive. It's all right to have an opinion about a Republican or a Democrat or what's the other one, independent. We have them. We welcome them. We love the two-party or three-party system. It'll always be. But when you have an autocratic, totalitarian narcissist who's arrogant and mean and acts like a child, it's all over the news. They're showing this whole thing, and the people are still rushing to put in Vladimir Putin number 2. I don't get it. And I think it needs to be spoken out for people of conscience, not necessarily just about religion, because I'm not being religious right now. I'm talking about the consciousness of a nation. There are a lot of Republican leaders, ain't none of them in Congress except maybe Miss Cheney, that now she's 20 points below in her area. What are we thinking, America? Where's our brains? You don't have to have, blind Bartimaeus, Ray Charles, Stevie Wonder can see that this is trouble. We put that man back in, and my God, the guns are already out. We're so close to guns in the streets because you don't arm your citizenry with assault weapons unless you expect assaults. You don't. My dad had a shotgun. All my uncles had. Everybody had guns. But we didn't have mass destructive guns, assault weapons that you could blow somebody's arm. Those little children were shot. Some of them were not recognizable because of that. What was it? AR-15s. They shouldn't be available to common people. That's for soldiers, and a lot of our soldiers in the Army don't even have that. That's a no-brainer. Have your pistol. Have something to protect yourself. But you don't want to have a machine gun. That's like giving the people of the Civil War cannons to take to their house. That's unconscionable. It's insensitive. It's dangerous. I know it's hard to say amen, but you don't say amen around here a lot anyway. So every once in a while you applaud if you like it. And if you don't like it, some of y'all just don't come back the next time, usually. And we have that right. Critical race theory has become a new boogeyman for people unwilling to acknowledge our country's racist history and how it impacts the present. Now, let me finish with this. Former Judge Lunick, a conservative who was a personal legal advisor to Vice President Mike Pence, said this week, while being publicly questioned by the January 6th committee probing the attack on the nation's capital, Donald Trump, quote, Donald Trump and his supporters are the strongest threat to our American democracy. I know there's probably one or two Donald Trump supporters here, so that may not include you. Now that's the vice president's a judge. That's his advisor. It's obvious, and even the former attorney general said, I told him this whole voting thing was BS. His people are coming out saying that man planned and was supportive of hanging the vice president. America, wake up. That's not just a little racism. That's insurrection. That's a coup d'etat. I'm not getting it. Some of the most intelligent, decent people I know. They're beautiful, generous, God-loving, Christ-following, Bible-toting and quoting, praying Christians. But there's like, what changed our thinking? The whole world is looking at us like we're a joke. And we cannot be quiet about it. We must speak out. We must, again, I mentioned the president by name, the former president, because he's all over the news, and he's still out saying that the vote was fraudulent. He's still saying it. And people are still cheering. I know people who've been black folk who let them pay them to stand behind him. For, them black folks back there don't even know what he's talking about. But he paid them because they was hungry. So it looks like black folks are supporting that. And there are a few who do, of course. And there are a lot of Mexican Americans and Hispanics who do. And there's a lot of Americans, and we have that right. But this is very dangerous, folks. We're riding on the precipice of a Cold War that's going to become alive in the streets. And it's not over. Between now and 2024, you will see blood, much more blood in the streets because people have guns and they're trigger happy and trigger hyper. What you saw on January 6th happened here 100 years ago in North Tulsa. That same spirit, that mob mentality, and many of them were Christians. Most of them were. You couldn't be a member of the Ku Klux Klan unless you were a Bible-believing Christian. So telling me you're a Christian doesn't impress me anymore. Calling me bishop, I'm not impressed with that. Thank you all for the respect, but you don't need to call me bishop. I've said that many times. You can call me son of a bishop. That would even be better. That might make me feel a little better these days. So I'm speaking out on live posts. I'm talking only because I feel more threatened and tenuous as a nation than I've ever felt in my life. If our archenemy, Vladimir Putin, is telling us to vote for somebody, that means don't vote for them. Right there. This man is killing people in Ukraine, bludgeoning families like you, sweet people. That's why I don't write crime over there, what you're seeing in Russia, in the Ukraine. Don't get too comfortable over here because this country is never going to be the same. We have a lot of work to do now. Wrap your arms around yourself and just feel that you're here. Feel your humanness. I know I went over. I apologize, guys. Look at this young black man. I ain't that young, but I ain't that old either. I will admit to you that I'm angry and hurt. I'm feeling the deepest wound in my 7 decades on the planet. I've never seen this part of our country and culture. I'm an intelligent man, university trained and educated, but I came from the ghettos of San Diego. I have white nieces and nephews, sister-in-law, brother-in-laws. Some of my best friends are white people. So I'm not a racist in the sense that other people are. But I see how valuable it is to hold you in my arms and to love you, to be accepted, to respect you and enjoy your respect. That's not asking for too much. It's so beautiful. This is the country we have to be. I don't know who's behind it, but somebody's running all these commercials with integrated couples. Since Trump went after the Asians and the Chinese, now you see Chinese and Asian actors and commercialists and TV commentators like we've never seen. Somebody behind there is thinking, let's counteract that by putting another picture on television. You see same-sex couples on every commercial nearly. You see integrated couples. Some of them don't even match. Now, I'm not just talking about racially. They just don't match. They look like they should be with somebody else. That's my prejudice. All right, I admit I got a little prejudice, Curry. Shut up there and be still. But to me, that's beautiful. Do like this, everybody. Just put it all together. Mix it up. We're not a melting pot. We're a stew. The potato is the potato, the tomato is the tomato, the corn is the corn, the onion is the onion. And when we all get together and stew a little bit, we taste a lot better. I love you. God bless you. Thank you for tolerating me this morning. I did the best I could. Thank you.
I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. When I think of you sometime, I want to spend some time with you, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles in the sky, just the two of us. You and I. We look for love, no time for tears. Wasted water's all that is, and it don't make no flowers grow. Good things may come to those who wait, but not for those who wait too late. We gotta go for all we know. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. Just the two of us, building them castles in the sky. Just the two of us, you and I. The crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall. It becomes a morning dew. And darling, when the morning comes and I see the morning sun, I want to spend some time with you. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us, building big castles way on high. Just the two of us, you and I. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us, building big castles in the sky. Just the two of us. You and I.
In times, just the two of us. Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Reverend. He knows I didn't call him Bishop. Every week at All Souls, we give away our plate to an organization doing the work of love, justice, and care in our community. Today's offering is going to the Tulsa Juneteenth Festival. Juneteenth is a federal holiday honoring the emancipation of enslaved people in the United States. It offers opportunities to reflect and to celebrate. The community-funded festival is created and supported and operated by Tulsa's Juneteenth Incorporated, the Tulsa community, which includes your kind donations. So when the offering plate comes around, please give generously. But before we accept the offering, we do have a few exciting announcements. Father's Day cookout with the men of All Souls is happening right after the services under the portico out front. There will be hot dogs, vegan dogs with all the fixings and refreshments. Still take your father to Father's Day dinner after that now. Celebrate Pride with All Souls starting June 22nd. We will build the float here at the church, march with Yahweh, lifting up our inclusive and massive pride flag in the parade on Saturday, June 25th. Gather our families at the Pride Park. We don't know where it is right now, so just check on later online and find out where the park will be held. Where it's been held in the park. All right. Yeah, check our website for more information. The final session of our Reproductive Justice series with B'nai Omuna concludes on Wednesday, June 22nd, in person at B'nai Omuna or on Zoom. Link to the event can be found on our website as well. And this Wednesday, so everything is happening this Wednesday, folks. A Wednesday Connections dinner and classes conclude. So it's a great time to come out and have dinner with our youth and make signs for folks to carry during the Pride Parade. Arts and supplies will be available. At this time, let us receive your most generous offering for Tulsa Juneteenth Festival. online. Have a great and awesome day today, this Father's Day. And as Reverend comes to offer the benediction, let us extinguish our flame, the flame that has guided us this morning, knowing that we all are included in the love of God. May it be so. Bishop, Reverend.
Metropolis. Polis is a Latin word that means citizen. Polite, politic, police, all come from that same. It's around the citizens. So if you're going to be polite and have policies and be political, you're going to have a concern for the citizenry, not the party. The citizens who we move among. So let's be more polite. I wasn't as polite this morning as I should have been. But I was talking about policy more than politeness. But then the police should be polite and strong as well. We can all do that. You're that way with your children. Sometimes you're that way with your spouses. Let's all stand and get ready to go home and just say, I'm going to try to be more polite this week, even with people with whom you disagree. And I have many conversations privately, like I've had here a little bit publicly today, and we still talk. I don't like them as much as I used to, but we still talk. Some of them are my family members. And you go through the same thing, and you've been through a great deal over the years just being who you are. And I salute you for standing strong. You're precious people. We have a wonderful community here of diversity. Let's keep it that way. Let's forgive every day. Let's love more. And you can tip me on the way out. All right, God bless you.